Welcome to Money Isn't Everything. I'm Mary Wisniewski, Cornerstone Advisors Editor-at-Large. Every other Thursday, we bring on a guest that is shaking up financial services in some way, and we get into the why, how, and the possibilities. My guest this week is Tony Brancato. He's the head of product at Charlie, which is the neobank for the over 62 crowd. We talk about pausing payments to try to reduce fraud, the movie Thelma, where the neobank is courting its customers, and whether or not our parents go to the clubs. Tony, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for being here. Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Well, before we get into the heart of the conversation, I want to do a quick fire rapid round of questions. Just give me thumbs up, thumbs down, unless you want to wax on anything about this. But
Okay.
1, 2, 3. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Buy now, pay later payments for consumers.
I now pay.
Thumbs down. Okay. 2, more fintech bank regulation. Woo! Thumbs up. And faster payments. Ooh, thumbs down. See, and that will lead us into the later part of this interview. Thank you. I thought that went through. Okay. Charlie was a neobank that got on my radar, I think about a year ago. And I was like, wow, this is seemingly so counterintuitive because here's a startup focused on the plus 62-year-olds. And really don't see that. And I think partly because there's stereotypes around that, but partly there's much more going on there. And I know you just went to see this movie that I was just thinking about, Thelma, which takes on the very issue that you're going after. But I thought this would be a perfect way to set the stage. What is this enormous problem that the over 62 crowd are up against in an unusual way?
Well, I think what we're seeing at Charlie is, the 62 plus community today is really under attack. Fraudsters are trying to take their money at every opportunity. You can't check your email. You can't answer the phone. You can't read your mail without someone trying to take all of your money. And so Charlie is a bank that we designed from the ground up to really be a great experience and safe experience for the 62 plus community.
Yeah, in this movie, which takes on this theme, it's about a 90-something-year-old woman getting scammed, right? Except she takes a spin on the typical storyline. I haven't seen it. I don't want to spoil it for people, but I'm pretty sure she goes after the bad guy. Yes?
She does go after the bad guy. That's right. But I think most people in situations like this might not go after the bad guy themselves. And so that's what Charlie is here for, to try to protect the rest of the non-Thelmas out there that need a bank that is taking care of their specific needs.
Yeah, I'm noticing, at least especially with my parents, they're being targeted with Facebook scams, for example. But I know Cornerstone did some research with Charlie last year, but I still think this is a hard number to put on. How much do people lose every year to these scams, Tony? What's the range here? What are we talking about?
Well, so the current official count is roughly $28 billion a year that the 62 plus community loses to fraud. I actually believe that number is significantly undercounting reality. I've probably spoken to over 200 retirees in the last year or so, and almost every one of them had lost between hundreds and thousands of dollars to fraud at some point. Very few of them told anybody about it because they were embarrassed, they were ashamed. They didn't want to tell usually their adult children about it because they didn't want them to think that suddenly, they couldn't handle their finances. This is happening to everybody. And so I think that, one important message to get out is that they're not alone. This is happening across the board. And so I think $28 billion is really undercounting the severity of the problem.
Yeah, and I'm so glad you mentioned this shame thing, because I was actually going to ask you about that, because I've been someone who's what does this say about me? Well, I've been robbed 3 times, and it all happened in my 20s, but it was physical, my purse was stolen or someone broke into my place. But I felt not only ill at ease because I was wow, this person has all this information on me now, but also oh, I don't really want to open it up about this. But then also I imagine decades to come, it might feel even worse because you're oh, this is a sign of my age or something like that. So I'm curious, how do we, this is a big question because it's a big problem, but how do we help remove the shame as part of it? Because I feel that's so critical to be able to also help attack this problem from the good side.
Right, exactly. Well, I think one of the ways that when we think about this, Charlie. So Charlie is a bank designed for the 62 plus community, and you have to be 62 years or older to sign up. And we offer, more ways. You get more for your money. We keep your money safe and protect you from fraud. And we try to deliver all of that with a relatable, respectful experience. And just by virtue of doing that, just by putting a stake in the ground and saying this community, this huge community, deserves a better bank because this is truly a universal problem. I haven't met a single colleague, friend, person of our age who has a parent and is not worried about them. I haven't talked to a single 62 plus member of that community that isn't worried about this issue, but everybody feels like it's just on them to solve for it. And we think we can actually build a better banking platform to address the issue head on and let everybody know that they're not alone.
And this is like, you almost queued me up for this, but one of the repeating segments we do is that's what you said. And so I listened to another podcast, and this is what you said on it. And it was, you don't want to think that the world is this way. I don't want to think the world is this way. But unfortunately, American seniors are just under attack from scammers.
Totally. Very smart person said that.
And then also a smart person quoting it back.
Very sad.
Yeah.
So I think one of the things that we've learned since Charlie launched last year was that this is a generation that is just really trusting. They want to believe that people are who they say they are, and they want to do the right thing. And you have that combined with these fraudsters who are getting more and more sophisticated with AI and with other tools to try to steal money from this vulnerable group. And so this is just what gets us up every day. It's like this mission of we're at war with the fraudsters. We have to do a better job of protecting this community, and we just believe in the mission so much.
I'm curious because this would be different than what another startup would be, where they'd be trying to find customers. But I know, a lot of older adults will bank with like a credit union or a bank, but they won't necessarily have a tailored experience. But I'm wondering, how do how do you go out and acquire these customers? Are you advertising on Facebook, for example, or what are some of the unique approaches, considering the age?
Sure, that's a great question. So we think of trust as being paramount. Like you need to know that your money is in a safe place. So one of our approaches to this is that we partner with Medicare brokerages, unions, pension funds, places that already have an established relationship of trust with this community. And we present ourselves through those avenues just to make sure that someone knows that, well, if they have a relationship with this institution that's already trustworthy, then I know that my money is in a safe place. At the same time, this community is on Facebook and is on Instagram, and surprisingly, actually, is on TikTok more and more. And so that's been really an interesting discovery for us. We find more and more of our customers through these kinds of avenues, as well as through traditional channels.
I mean, how pervasive would you say they're on TikTok? Or is it like just starting to swing?
It's just starting. I think the early days of TikTok, but I would say we find a very robust community on Facebook and Instagram. And I think these are also, we have to, we step carefully into these channels because these are also places where people are getting defrauded. There is no such thing as a free iPad. And yet the number of people that click on ads and think they're going to get a free iPad if they give their account information away, it happens all the time on Facebook.
Well, yeah, let's talk about more of those scams because I know for like my parents, it was like fake. Oh gosh, one was so simple. My dad really likes this local market called Rudy's in Clarkston, Michigan, and there was an advertisement for like enter this contest, get a free mug, but like it was a scam, and so that's like a mug. So this must be like, what are the other scam? What are the common scams you're seeing on Facebook specifically, or we could go broader than that too?
Sure. I mean, I think this is one of the things that, as we were discussing earlier, one of the reasons we introduced this new product called Speed Bump is
the pause button.
It's like a pause button for your money. Exactly. So one of the things scammers love to do on Facebook and in other channels is they love to create artificial urgency, like making you make a quick decision. This is only available, this iPad's only available for 5 minutes, or we see this all the time. It's really sad, which is someone pretends, it's a loving grandmother and their granddaughter, someone posing as their granddaughter says, I lost my wallet, I lost my phone, this is a new phone, please send me money. I need it right now. And so, of course, this person's going to send them the money because they want to help their granddaughter. And then they realize a couple of hours later that it really wasn't their granddaughter. And again,
Mhm.
this is the kind of thing that AI is only going to get better at kind of creating these scams and creating this urgency. So now with Speed Bump, we do three things to stop this. One is we pause money movement where we see typical signals of potential fraud. If you've added a new payee that we haven't seen before, you add a new device that we haven't seen before, or you're moving a large sum of money. So we pause the money movement for a few hours. We then notify you across all of the channels we can email, text, in the app, and we send you contextual education while you have this critical moment to just breathe and say, like, do you really know this person that you're sending the money to? Are you sure about this? Just take a breath. And
Mhm.
the studies show that if you teach someone what a scam looks like, they're 80% less likely to fall for it. So now we want to make sure you really know, like, this is the person you're sending the money to, and give you that space for calm. And Speed Bump does that. It just gives you a moment to say, oh, wait, this is not okay. And then you can cancel the transaction. So it's just a little bit of pause. And we hope that that's going to create a tremendous opportunity to stop fraud before it happens.
Yeah, Tony, and this is so interesting. And this would be really interesting to wider like banking circles too, because it's not usually hear about speed up the payment, but like
Right? That's why I
uh,
gave that down.
you gave it the thumbs down. Yeah. Do you think the industry should be putting in these pause buttons?
I love that question, Mary. I think I'm excited that we are, I think, ahead of the game here and being the first people to release this kind of product. But I also have a sense that maybe in the next few years, people are going to start wondering, why doesn't every bank do this? Because we let the payments go through. We're eventually, once you're through that pause, that speed bump period, the money still goes through. So we're not interfering in the banking experience and in the money movement experience, but we're just it's that undo button or that pause button you said earlier that just gives you that little bit of the moment to breathe. We think is going to be with that education is going to be a really powerful way again to stop fraud before it happens. I think people are going to start picking this up in other banking circles.
Yeah, because I think even just I've always thought about like, oh, I want the oopsie button for like I didn't mean to buy that. Yeah.
I want this on my bank now. I'm like, why doesn't my bank have? I can't sign up for Charlie yet,
Yeah.
but I'm getting it closer every day. But so now I want my bank to have these features.
Yeah. And what about how did you come up with that 6 hour?
Oh yeah. So if you add a new payee, it's a 6 hour speed bump, and we feel like that's like the right amount of time. I'll take a step back. You add a new payee, or we detect a payment from, or someone's trying to access your account from a new device, which could mean it could be a signal of account takeover, for example. In both of these situations, we give you a 6 hour window because we feel like that's enough time for you to either address the problem yourself, call our customer support line so we can help you through it, and fix the problem. That's six. If it's all okay, then after 6 hours, the money will leave your account and go through, and everything's fine. So you don't have to do anything extra, but you do have just the amount of time to actually address the problem if there is one.
You brought up your customer service line, and I remember thinking when I first came across Charlie, this was interesting because it's US based and you don't always see that
Yes.
necessarily. But what's the significance there of making sure, like even putting it in the marketing materials, like this is a US based number?
When we were doing the initial customer research for Charlie, like what could we be doing better than a traditional bank for this community? The number one requested feature, like by a long shot, was US based customer support. And I
Mm-hmm.
think about this, I always root this in terms of my mom. My mom was one of the first customers of Charlie. And, she has enough time. She lives in New York. I live in California. She has enough time. She has a hard enough time understanding me on the phone. But you introduce any kind of cultural or linguistic barrier. It's not that she thinks that the person on the other end of the line can't do their job, that it makes her feel like she's missing something, that she's old and can't do it right.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we think with the opportunity of US based customer support, you just know you have someone that's going to both understand you, you're going to understand them, and you have all the cultural context that will make sure that you're getting a great experience.
Tony, I don't know why this just made my mind go this way, but it went this way. So we'll go this way.
Oh,
And that is more broadly, I've been seeing fintech apps try to like use their app to like foster community, either with like, hey, we're going to have this live chat at this time, come join us, or just letting community members chat with each other to get like financial advice in some way. And I'm wondering, would that be something interesting to Charlie in any which way?
We love the idea, and we think, and we've seen this in the research, the 62 plus community, the social networks are very strong. They're very tight. People talk to each other. People like to share information, share wisdom. And so in the coming weeks and months, just like a little bit of a hint out there, but I can't say too much. We are thinking about new ways to actually allow our customers to kind of share that wisdom. One thing I can say now is that we're already using this feedback loop that anytime a customer experiences fraud or they share a fraud story with us, they're coming from another bank, they've signed up for Charlie, and they share a story with us. We put those stories in our newsletter, in our Fraud Watch newsletter. We tell all of our other members, like, listen to this story. This is what happened to one of our members, and try to maximize the awareness of that, because we think that shared wisdom is another way that we can really empower our customers. We've already started to do that also with saving money. Charlie Saver is a newsletter that we publish, and we just let people kind of share tips about savings that they found at their local stores or the grocery store or local merchant. Because we think that's what we want to be able to not only protect money, but help people make their money go further.
Yeah, well, let's drill into that a bit more, because I'm thinking about, and maybe I've even read about this, but like a fraud alert would look different for your customer type. Because I think I've seen it referenced, like if someone's going to the ATM at like in the middle of the night, that would be a weirder thing.
Yes.
For most older adults, but I don't know. I don't know what my parents do at night.
I don't know.
Yeah.
The joke I often make is like, I don't think my mom is out clubbing on a Friday night, but I don't know, and probably don't want to know.
Yeah.
But that, like, one feature that we offer is called sleep mode, and you can set your schedule for your Charlie card to go to sleep when you go to sleep. And we won't let any transactions go through in the middle of the night unless it's a recurring transaction that you've said is okay. And this is another feature that when we just thought about this community and their needs and their behavior patterns, that this is a feature that just makes sense. So yeah, and I think another feature that we're really excited about is called Copilot. So you can actually add a trusted loved one to your suspicious activity alerts. So now I know I get the same alerts that my mom gets, and she has this incredible peace of mind knowing that like she has a second set of eyes on her account activity, only when something might be going wrong, and that we can work on that together if there's any kind of issue.
And this is probably two questions in one, but I think it's really cool that you're also building for something for this audience at a time when like the stereotypes are shifting. Like, what was 40, 20 years ago feels very different of like how 40 is portrayed now. And like, I'm just thinking, I don't know, I'm thinking about all the things I know when you're in your early 20s, you think, that's like, often you might think that's the end of times. Or I recently was on this yoga thing, and one of the social people there was that she had done a post of like, how to do yoga after 40, and was like, simple things like trying to touch your toes or something. And it was not well received by the audience, because there's like, there's a disconnect. But it's also, I think it points to like people are living longer kind of, or projected to live longer. So this is the two-part question, like, what kind of ripple effects does that have when the media story is changing over like older people for Charlie? And then two, like in theory, you would have more of a limited lifetime with these customers, but also at the same time, people are living longer. So like, how do you think about these two things?
That's a really interesting question. I mean, I think the reason that we're probably the first people to market with a bank that's specifically designed for this community is that I think there are a lot of stereotypes in the media right now about who the typical 62-year-old is. But when you think about it, a 62-year-old today has been living with the internet for over 25 years, with mobile for over 15 years. The vast majority of our customers are on mobile phones and only ever access our service from mobile phones. It's a very savvy audience. And I think that's something that people underestimate about the community and where it stands today. And every day, there are 10,000 people a day retiring in the United States. every day those retirees get savvier and savvier with technology. So we think that leading with a service that is digital first, that this audience is ready for this. And then when we think about how like the longevity of this audience, I would say we don't really think about that too much, because we think this is an underserved audience that has like really acute problems, and the opportunity to serve that audience, to just do a better job at protecting them and their money, is the thing that animates us every day and gets us out of bed. And we think that there's many, many, many years ahead of us of being able to do a great job of creating a great experience for them.
Yeah, I definitely think it's an underserved audience. And I can't remember the stat, but maybe you do, of like, it can be an audience where, they're struggling to afford like the prescription bill. Like, of course, that matters so much.
That's right. The typical retiree today is living paycheck to paycheck off of Social Security, which is about $1,800 a month. And, it's, when we talk about fraud, we often say like it's the fraud like thousands of dollars or tens of thousands of dollars, or the stories you hear about in the news. And those are terrible stories. But much, much more common is fraud under $1,000. Like these hundreds of dollars are getting lost. But when you're only taking in, and you're on a fixed income, and you're only taking in $1,800 a month, losing $1,000 is a catastrophic event. That's where we think, again, like protecting every dollar that these customers have is paramount.
And Tony, I know we talked about like we could both see a broader use of the pause payment for like other banking apps, but is there anything else you would advocate for a bank or a credit union person or another fintech company to do that would like help this audience?
I think just recognizing that this is an audience that is trusting, that does want to believe in the people that are contacting them, and just every day we are committed at Charlie to thinking about what does this community need. I think most traditional banks are just focused on accumulators. It's a much like larger audience, and they perceive it as a much more financially lucrative audience. Our audience is decumulators. They're on a fixed income. It's a very different set of challenges. I would just challenge other banks to really be thinking about that audience and what their specific needs are. But I honestly don't expect it to happen. And that's why we're doing what we're doing, is that it's an audience that the market is not responding to right now and not taking care of.
You're just making me think of all the websites I've seen with like, maybe a 60 or 70-year-old walking down the beach or playing golf. It's much more varied than that.
Much more varied than that, exactly. It's like over 60 million retirees out there in America today. Another 36 million are going to be retiring in the next 10 years. It's a huge swath of the population. And so we're excited about all of the ways we think we can just do a better job of giving them a great banking experience.
Yeah. And you're just making me think, one of my dearest friends is in her 80s, and I'm like going to a beach festival with her coming up. So there's a perfect example of, and she's driving that, like she wanted to be there. So
very nice.
That illustrates it. Tony, I have one last question for you, but before I do that, I wanted to open up to make sure we covered everything you wanted to, or if there's anything you wanted to say, and/or where one ought to find you or Charlie.
Oh, great. Well, so yes, you can go to charlie.com on your web browser, or download our app, either the iOS or Android app stores, and sign up. Signing up is free. And again, there are no fees, no minimums. You do have to be 62 years or older to sign up for Charlie. And we're here to serve.
Awesome. And Tony, last question then. What is the photo on your phone's lock screen?
Photo on my phone's lock screen.
Yeah.
Do I show it?
Yeah, show it too. Sometimes it doesn't render that well.
So it is my, actually I probably don't want to put it up on the screen. It's my daughter.
Oh,
it's a beautiful photo of it's her class photo. She just graduated from elementary school, and it's just the most beautiful photo. And, they're growing up so fast. And so having that it makes me happy every time I see it.
Well, Tony, congratulations to you and to her.
Thank you so much, Mary.
Yeah, and thanks so much for being on Money and Everything. It's really appreciate it.
This is great. I really enjoyed the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you.
So here's what stood out to me the most from my conversation with Tony, and that is shame is among the reasons why we don't know about all the cases involving elder financial fraud. And also that living longer is something fintech really needs to zoom in on and help build products for. If you haven't subscribed to the show already, please do. I don't want you to miss the next episode. 2 weeks from now, I sit down with Kelly Fryer, who's the executive director at the Fintech Sandbox, which is a nonprofit that gives fintech companies access to data for free for a handful of months. We talk about creativity and what fintech entrepreneurs are working on right now. See you then.